Please rise in body or spirit as we sing, Come, O Sabbath Day. And since this melody might be new to some of us, I'm going to ask you that you join in on the refrain. This is what the refrain sounds like. Thou shalt rest, thou shalt rest. Let's try it. Thou shalt rest, thou shalt rest. One more time. Thou shalt rest, thou shalt rest. Come, O Sabbath day, and bring peace and healing on thy wing, and to every weary one let a word of blessing come. Thou shalt rest, thou shalt rest. Welcome Sabbath day, may part every care of troubled heart. Now the daily task is done, let a word of comfort come. Thou shalt rest, thou shalt rest. Work and sorrow cast away, Sabbath is for prayer and play. Now the rising of the sun, let a cheering message come. Thou shalt rest, thou shalt rest. One more refrain. Thou shalt rest, thou shalt rest.
Welcome to First Unitarian Church of Rochester. Good morning, everyone. You're looking rather perky for the time change. And I thought for sure that the 9:30 crowd would mostly be here, but we had a full house this morning. Just out of curiosity, any of you early service people who just happened to be sneaking in today? You're in good company. The 11:30 service is awesome. It is so good to be with all of you. I'm Reverend Shari. I'm one of the ministers that serves this congregation. And leading worship with me today, we've got our worship associate, Necole, our storyteller for all ages, Sue Morgan, whose name I weirdly cannot, I tried just now. You heard it, and I was like, it's Sue. Just say Sue. I don't know why. It's Sue Morgan. Pablo and the choir are here with the music of ministry. Our AV team, of course, makes worship happen. And, well, it's not Sunday without all of you. Whether you're here in the building, on our grounds, or online, you are part of what makes First Unitarian and Sunday morning who we are and what we do together. We gather here on the contemporary and ancestral land of the Seneca people, the keepers of the western door of the Haudenosaunee. And we gather on Sundays for an hour or two if you come to Connections beforehand, which I encourage you to do. We gather, but we are not a Sunday-only kind of people. We are a people with a purpose that extends way beyond our four walls. And together, our mission is through spiritual connection in community. We listen deeply to others and ourselves. We open to wonder and transformation. And we serve together with love and humility. We gather to help inspire ourselves to draw from our deepest values and live this mission each and every day. So, I've got a special announcement about the variety of ways we gather. We gather in song and word, but we're a people who are not only of purpose, but of potluck. So next Sunday, that 10:30 to 11:30 hour that bridges our two services, we're gonna have a special potluck to celebrate the close of our stewardship season. So that's a reminder to make a financial commitment to the congregation if you haven't yet, and come next week with a dish to pass or hungry. This is a congregation that feeds one another in many different ways, and we're so glad that you will be a part of that. If you're new or newish here, during that same 10:30 hour right before this service, every single week we have a session for newcomers where you can learn something about how we do church. What do we think it means to be a people bound together with purpose? I invite you to that. And once you start coming, you get a potluck, you do to inquirers. Well, you'll find your place here. We are a people of purpose, of potluck, and of presence. We care for one another. And if you came to church today because you're worried about yourself or someone else, I invite you to connect with our pastoral care team, either here in person or send us an email. Help us care for one another. Help us be here together. So I invite you to remember with gratitude that every breath we take was breathed out by plants before us. Let's go ahead and breathe that in, nice and comfortable. And breathe it out, feeding the plants that which requires us to complete the cycle. And invite Adriana forward. And Adriana, I see you're solo. Is that right? Okay. Your kids are somewhere in the building. That happens sometimes. That's good. It takes a village to raise children. Join me in our unison words. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and the mysteries of this great gift. I invite you to rise in body. And if you're too tired for that or you can't, I invite you to rise in spirit. And if you're too tired or can't, we've got you.
Girl Scout Sunday. About 20 years ago, I co-led my daughter's Daisy Girl Scout troop with my mom. And this particular year, we decided to teach our troop about the 4 world centers. They are large houses or hostels in England, Mexico, Switzerland, and India. Each week, we focused on one of those houses. And we taught them about it through craft or game, story, and food. Because like Shari said, food is important. So this particular weekend, or meeting, we were learning about India. And I decided the food was going to be mango lassis, a mango smoothie, basically. So I brought all the ingredients, I cut up the mangoes, put them in the blender, worked through the recipe, and got to 1 cup sugar. And I looked in the ingredient bag, and there was no sugar. So I went into the kitchen of our meeting space, figuring they must have sugar because they have coffee hour. And I would donate a bag of sugar back just for 1 cup. I found a bag of white crystalline substance. See where this is going? So I put 1 cup of that substance in the mango lassi and blended it all up, and it became this beautiful orange golden color. And I took the top off, ready to pour it into the cups, and I swiped the top to taste it, and oh, I had never tasted a saltier smoothie in my life. And isn't that why we come to church? Because at church, we can put all of the ingredients together and create something beautiful and have support when life gets salty.
Place Hello. I'm Sue Morgan. I use she, her pronouns, and I'd like to invite the kids up for our Story for All Ages time. If anyone wants to come and join me up here. Would you like to be up on the carpet where it's a little more comfortable, or are you more comfortable down on the floor? It's up to you. You guys are okay down there? There's the carpet too, if you like. I'll make lots of space. Yeah. Yeah, come on up. Even the wood is more comfortable than the floor. Okay, does everyone have a spot? Wonderful. Well, the story that I'm going to tell you all today is derived from an Ojibwe legend. The Ojibwe are the indigenous people of Eastern Canada, and they live in the woods. And the story takes place in the woods. And it's their story to explain why the chickadee does not fly south for the winter. So, long ago, so the elders would say, all birds flew south for the winter. We're used to seeing the geese fly by, right? And we know the robins fly south and the ducks and many other birds. But the elders said all birds flew south. And they spent the winter down south where they could eat and, fly around, and then they'd fly back. Now, it was a long, hard trip, even for the geese with their strong wings. Now, imagine the little chickadee. It's about the size of a chickadee, with his tiny little wings. Imagine how hard it was to fly all that distance, spend a little time down there, and then have to fly all the way back. They would get back up north in the spring, absolutely worn out, almost too tired to build their nests. So one spring, a little chickadee was born, and as soon as she was old enough to leave the nest, her parents said, okay, little one, you have to start getting your wings nice and strong, because it won't be very long before the days will grow short and the nights will grow cold, and you will need to be able to fly all the way south. So little chickadee practiced flying. First, she hopped from branch to branch on her tree. And then as her wings got stronger, she could fly around her tree. And then she could fly from tree to tree, and soon she could fly all over the forest. And as her wings grew stronger and she discovered how much fun it was to fly, she started doing tricks. First, she would fly in zigzags like this, choop, choop, choop. And then she would fly in loop-de-loops, and she even tried flying upside down, which was a mistake because she flew right into a tree. Now, she survived, but she did hurt her wing, and she had to spend a little bit of time down on the forest floor with her parents guarding her and bringing her seeds until her wing got better. But when it got a little better and she could hop back up to the tree, by that time, it was starting to get colder, and the days were growing shorter. And her parents knew that the time was now for them to start getting ready to fly south. But their little chickadee's wing had not healed quite enough to make that long journey. So they made a brave decision. They would stay up north for the winter. And so Mama Chickadee flew out to try to find a nice, snug home for them for the winter. So first, she flew to a birch tree, and she pecked at it, peck, peck, peck. Said, "Excuse me, birch tree, do you have a place where my family and I can stay for the winter?" And the birch tree said, "Well, yes, you could stay here, but I should warn you, when the winter winds blow, I really sway. Your house would be rocking back and forth every time the wind blew." And the Mama Chickadee thought about it and said, "Thank you, but I think I'll keep looking." She didn't want to stay in a house that was always moving back and forth. So she went a little further, and she went to an oak tree, and she pecked at the trunk, peck, peck, peck. "Excuse me, oak tree, Do you have a place I could stay with my family for the winter? The oak tree said, well, I've got lots of room, but I should warn you, there are 4 families of squirrels already living with me for the winter, and they are very noisy, and they're always running up and down my trunk. I don't think it would be very peaceful. And the mama chickadee thought, thank you. I think I'll keep looking. And so she flew on until she came to a cedar tree. And she pecked at the cedar tree, peck, peck, peck. Excuse me, cedar tree. Do you have a place where my family and I can stay for the winter? And the cedar tree said, why, yes, I do. Look up my trunk about halfway. There's a nice snug hole in my trunk, just right for your family. And if you look out on my branches, you'll see I have lots of little cones with some tasty kernels that you can eat. You can help yourself to as many as you like. So the chickadee family said goodbye to their friends as they all headed south, and they settled into that hole in the cedar tree. And they found, to their surprise, they loved it. It was so beautiful and still in the woods in the wintertime. And on sunny days, they could hop out onto the branch and eat some little kernels. And on chilly days, they would puff up their feathers and snuggle down in their hole. And in the spring, when their friends came back, they were surprised to see that the little family was not only surviving, they were doing very well. They had loved their winter. And they said, we're going to do the same next winter. We're going to stay in the woods. So that next winter, a few of their chickadee friends found holes of their own all around the woods. And then the winter after that, even more. And soon all of the chickadees were staying in the woods throughout the winter. And not only the chickadees, but also the cardinals and the blue jays and the sparrows. Do you know another bird that stays through the winter? The bald eagle stays through the winter. Lots of birds looked at what the chickadee was doing and they said, oh, that's a good idea. We won't tire ourselves out. And so for some birds, it's still best for them to fly south for the winter. But others think of winter as a time of rest. Did you have something you wanted to say about that? The penguins know how to survive the cold, don't they? And did you know another bird? Did you have one that you wanted to share? A bird that stays north? That's okay if you think of it later. Yeah, so lots of birds stay north for the winter and enjoy the peace. It's a made-up bird. I love made-up birds. A what? A duck? Okay, a made-up duck will stay for the winter. A chair, yes, the chairs do not go south for the winter. They know how to sit and rest. May this story unfold in your hearts until we are together again. All right.
We bless you on your journey through, from sheltering arms to the wide sky blue, and your joyful jumps and your sad times too. You bless us by being you.
I think the alternate title for that story was Florida's Got Nothing on Rochester. Each week we gather for a moment of stillness, of prayer and meditation. But sometimes I need that between Sundays. Sure, I pray myself, but sometimes I want someone else to offer something. And so I call 833 Love Naps.
Hi, This is your NAP Bishop, and welcome to our Love NAPS hotline. I'm so grateful you're calling today. This hotline will be a place of resurrection and resistance, a place to ground ourselves in our sustained rest practice. Today, I'll have a reading from the book Womanist Theological Ethics, from Emily M. Towns, from her article, Ethics as an Art of Doing the Work Our Souls Must Have. An important distinction must be made. Liberation and freedom are not the same. Liberation is a process. Freedom is a temporary state of being. It is more of an event we point toward, work for, and hope for. Liberation is the product of freedom. End quote. And rest is a liberation practice. To imagine a new world that centers liberation, rest is our foundation to be able to invent, to restore, to imagine and build. You can rest. We will rest. Please get rest today. Your faithful NAP Bishop.
Sometimes I need not words, but sound. Spirit of love, when we are weary from the burdens that we carry, when our hearts are heavy with sorrow or struggle, may we find refuge in your embrace.
Come unto me, and I will give you rest. Come unto me, and I will give you rest.
In the peace of this moment, let us lay down our worries. Help us to trust that we are held in a love greater than ourselves.
Come unto me, and I will give you rest. Come unto me, and I will give you rest.
May we remember that rest is sacred, that we too are worthy of gentleness, that we need not earn our right to be at peace.
Come unto me, and I will give you rest. Come unto me, and I will give you rest.
For all who are restless, for all who are searching, for all who long to feel at home, may this space, this time, this presence be enough. May we find renewal in the breath we take, in the hands we hold, in the love that surrounds us.
Come unto me, and I will give you rest. Come unto me, and I will give you rest.
Amen. Returning to this room, breathing out all that we hold within, breathing in all that lies beyond us. We enter now into ritual. We bring what is on our hearts and we lay it on the altar of community and spirit. Honoring the complexities of life, I invite you to bring to mind whatever grief or growth or gratitude is alive within you this week. Online, I invite you to share in the chat. Here in the sanctuary, I invite you to come forward to light a candle or to raise your hand so that an usher might bring a candle to you. Let this light be a witness to one another's hearts, and may you come forward to join in our ritual of community care. for John Parker, who died this week, for his wife Nancy and their families, for all these candles lit, and all that we hold in our hearts, we pray. May we all, each of you, the others who surround you, and the world be held in this community. May we be held in the palm of love. Amen.
Good morning. That better? Yeah. My name is David Pinto. I'm the Vice President of the Board of Trustees here. I use he, him pronouns. And it's when Reverend Shari asked me to speak this morning, I realized, even though I've been a member here for 17 years, this is my first time at the pulpit, which kind of surprised me because both of my boys have been up here. But the last time I was up here was during the membership service 17 years ago. But the time is right, and I appreciate the chance to talk, as I had a few thoughts I wanted to share about the stewardship campaign that's going on. You see, I've always been jealous of Catholics. That's a good line, isn't it? Sorry. I mean, my father was Catholic, and I was baptized when I was born. And, I also remember having to learn the Stations of the Cross before I could take First Communion. And later, when I was still young, my parents divorced, and my mother moved us out to Oklahoma. And my mother felt like we needed religion, and in Oklahoma at that time, that meant Southern Baptist. And I remember the hot Oklahoma summers. My brother and I would run from church to church, and we were baptized nearly every weekend, every Sunday, because the water was cool, and they gave you juice and cookies afterwards, right? Praise Jesus. Yeah. My mother was also Jewish, at least by heritage, and in college, I found myself very curious about the Chabad house on campus. And I visited for a Shabbat service a couple of times, and they welcomed me in with open arms. And I remember one of the main topics of the conversation was telling me that I really needed to work on my beard. Now, these are all wonderful faith traditions, but none of them really felt like they fit me. But I was always a bit jealous. I was jealous of their rich community. I was jealous of their long and storied histories, and I wanted to be part of that. I wanted to be part of something bigger, but none of them felt right. It wasn't until much later that I discovered Unitarian Universalism, and much later after that when I learned that we also have a long and storied history. I mean, we're the original heretics. How cool is that? For those of you interested, I'd invite you to the Inquirer series on the history of UU to learn more, but it's true, we're the original heretics. And the best part for me was that I felt that I'd finally found my spiritual home, my community, my history. I mean, our mission and our values stretch back basically unchanged for centuries. Even here at First Unitarian, our community has risen together to meet the challenges of the moment since 1841. Abolitionism, women's suffrage, industrialization and labor unions, civil rights, racial equality, Vietnam, the AIDS crisis, climate change, LGBTQ plus issues, and today, the age of Trump, or whatever it ends up getting called. But through all of these, our community has always met the moment with our time, talent, and treasures. Sometimes at great personal risk and sacrifice. And we always look to the future. So today, we're blessed with a healthy endowment. Am I gone?
Turn over the online.
This is going to be interesting. Reverend Shari? Oh, yeah. I'll back up a little bit. Oh, wow, that's loud. I'll back up a little bit. Our community has always met the moment with our time, talent, and treasure, sometimes at great personal risk and sacrifice. And we always look to the future. So today, we're blessed with a healthy endowment built by the generosity, faith, and wise stewardship of those in our community who came before. And the Board of Trustees honors that legacy by partnering with our past to meet the challenges of today. Specifically, for every $7 offered during our stewardship campaign this year, $3 will be added from the endowment. To give you an example, a donation of $100 becomes $143, ensuring that your gifts go even further towards supporting the mission of our community. Our endowment is the embodiment of our community's enduring faith that will be steadfast in our mission and always be here to serve as a beacon of hope during turbulent times. Their gifts built our legacy and built our endowment. Your gift empowers our mission of today and supports future generations. It's our turn to step up, to honor our legacy, and to lean into the needs of our moment. Thank you so much for letting me share my thoughts. Thank you.
Each week, members and friends generously contribute to our offering, which helps to sustain and grow our community. This collection supports the work and witness of our church, and each week we give half of this collection to a partner organization who help those in need and work to create a more just and loving world. This week, we are sharing the plate collection with the Avenue Black Box Theater. In times of struggle and repression, art is more important than ever, and the Avenue makes art accessible on Joseph Ave, right here in Rochester. It is a place to create, to grow, to learn, and it is vital. You can give online at rochesterunitarian.org/donate, on the Church Center app, or in the baskets. Our offering will now be received with gratitude.
My mic feels even better knowing I've shared it today. We're really all connected, aren't we? We really are all connected, aren't we? Yeah. A few weeks ago, I found myself at a ministers' conference, an intimate gathering of about 30 people, and someone offered to do something really, really nice for me. They offered to do a tarot reading for me. Now, I don't know very much about tarot, but I'm always down for joining other people's spiritual practices. You want to pray for me? Please. I could use all the prayer I can get. I'm not a baptism every Sunday kind of person, but it sounds refreshing. And, well, if someone wants to do a tarot reading, I'm in. I just don't know very much about it. They did a 3-card spread, which I understand is common. And sometimes it's about past, present, and future. Sometimes there are various ways of taking up a question. I didn't really know. What I did know was once they turned over the cards, either card on both sides was of the major arcana. And I don't know what that means, but it made me feel important. I'll learn more about tarot one day, maybe on my sabbatical. But, well, the middle was confusing. It had someone a person in what looked like a nest, curled up, their hands under their head. They were holding a sword, and 3 swords were coming down. And I looked at the person who was doing the reading, and I said, I got nervous, and is this death? Has this person died? And my colleague and friend looked at me, raised their eyebrow, in that way that's like, you've done something. And said, no, they're not dead, they're asleep. You really need to go on sabbatical. So I'm going to learn about sleeping, I guess, on sabbatical. But sabbatical takes its common root from Sabbath, what we do together, a day of rest, what we gather at church for. Both of these take their root from the very beginning of the Bible, in one of the stories of Genesis, where God spent 6 days making everything out of nothing and then rests. But we are not, no matter how beautiful and glorious and good, we are not God. And so our taking up of a period of rest looks different. Sabbath is different. In the Jewish tradition, keeping the Sabbath is critically important and is not something you do after you've tired yourself completely. It's not something you do in order to rest up and restore just so you can do more tiresome stuff the next week, but it's the point. God created humans to keep the Sabbath, at least as far as many Jewish customs tell us. In fact, the encouragement to keep the Sabbath is repeated more than any other commandment in the Bible. Right at the very beginning of God's relationship with people, keeping the Sabbath is important. And it's repeated again and again and again. This idea that we might be created for rest is confusing to me. Surely I am made for creation, for struggle, for working shoulder to shoulder alongside all of you. And in fact, I once found myself about 10 years ago in a conversation at another Unitarian Universalist gathering that spoke to this core purpose of mine directly. Now, General Assembly is a gathering of thousands of Unitarian Universalists, but for me, always, beyond the speeches and the large format learning and connecting, it's the surprising conversations with a stranger that linger with me. I found myself talking with a new friend, someone who was also a deeply committed Unitarian Universalist, who asked me, "What's your favorite thing? What makes you happiest? Where do you most come alive?" And I told her all about what it was like to be with people from my church and my wider community, to work shoulder to shoulder in liberation struggles, to work towards justice, to know that no matter our differences, we are creating a better place together. And my new friend did that thing with the raised eyebrow where you've said something kind of off, and she said, "Oh, so for your dream and your happiness, injustice must exist." Which was rude. It's a rude thing to say. I felt like I was pretty inspiring in sharing my reason for being, and she was right. Absolutely correct. Yes, as the choir sang to us earlier, God will delight with creation of justice, but also too of joy. Of joy, and the refrain, the point, the dream is actually a place at the table, a place to feast and be in good company. This conversation 10 years ago transformed me. Now, when I talk about my reason for being, yes, it is still being shoulder to shoulder with all of you, but always this reminder that my happiness cannot depend on the existence of injustice, and that we too, you and I, were created for rest, for delight, for beauty. Like most lessons, like most humans, this takes time. And so I found myself in need of reminders. I call up the nap bishop, 833 love naps, pretty regularly to remind myself to rest. And I'm not great at sleeping. And so I do the thing that sometimes I do when I'm not great at something, which is pay attention to something else. And I find that those who deeply study rest, who know it to be critical for being human, for being good, for being our best, describe rest as not simply sleep, but 7 different kinds of being. This includes physical rest, mental rest, emotional rest, sensory rest, creative rest, social rest, and spiritual rest. Ironically, most of them can be achieved by turning off our cell phones and taking a social media Sabbath, but it points to the many different facets of renewal needed. Many of us have been sold a version of taking care of ourselves that's bubble baths and naps. And yet often our spirits and our well-being call for a great variety of things. And most of these are not things achieved alone. Physical rest is what we think of when we think of sleep or ceasing from work, but this might also include going for a walk or getting a massage or simply being shoulder to shoulder in physical contact with someone else and feeling their breathing, a long hug. Mental rest, of course, involves setting aside time to practice meditation, time away from social media. Emotional rest, especially for those of us who care for another or a community, involves pouring into our emotional well-being, not simply avoiding stress or finding time alone, but finding a way to talk to a trusted friend or a therapist. It gives us time to process. Sensory rest, well, yes, again with the social media Sabbath, but practicing breathing, taking a bath, recognizing that each of us is advertised more to, shouted at more, tried to reach more in a week than our grandparents experienced their entire lives. Our senses are not built for the contemporary world, and rest is needed. Creative rest. Now, many of us find rest through engaging in creative pursuits, music and art, but it is true that many of us know a world where much is required of us. The pressure to produce exists constantly. Creative rest involves taking a break that allows you to cease from creating. It's like writing a sermon and doing the laundry instead. It's like being stuck with a problem and taking a walk or a shower and finding, though, that this wasn't the point. The solution comes to you the second you put the challenge down. Most of these ways of resting involve being in relationship, in community. We often talk about self-care and rest as if it is something that just requires us to check out of the life, of the inconveniences of life, of the ways in which other people annoy us or stress us out. And the truth of the matter is that building community often requires us to be annoyed by the people around us, often requires us to show up even if we didn't particularly want to. But social rest provides a protection for that container. Social rest demands that even the most extroverted among us need time alone, need time from being in community so that we can better be in community. And finally, spiritual rest, engaging in a spiritual practice or receiving the generous gifts of another's practice, praying, meditating, coming to church, volunteering for something you care about, that connects you with the vertical, what lies beyond and is greater than any one of us, and the horizontal, that which connects us to each other and all of creation. All of these are necessary for rest. All of this is all well and good, but if I could have this conversation with my General Assembly friend, the truth of the matter is that injustice does exist. We don't live in the world of my dream or pure, better happiness where our liberation is fully achieved. And so we return to the wisdom we heard from womanist scholar Emily Towns earlier in our Nat Ministries reading, who tells us about the difference between freedom and liberation, tells us that freedom is temporary and personal, but liberation is what we are truly seeking. And this liberation theology makes its way into Unitarian Universalism and into the words of Unitarian Universalist minister Julian Jamaica Soto, who writes, "To the people who have mistaken freedom for liberation, to be free, you must embrace the breadth of your own existence without apology, even if they try to take it from you. You must know not that you can do whatever you want. You are not a kudzu vine eating entire hillsides for the purpose of feeding your own lush life. You must know instead that you are entire universes, milky blue, magenta, and gold, expanding. But to be actually free, you must know and you must fight for the entire universes inside everyone else. Being free is not a license, but a promise." So if our liberation is not to be confused with personal freedom, we must also remember that our liberation does not depend on ourselves alone. None of us can find true connection and freedom without being entangled and dependent, interdependent on one another. The work of liberation is shift work, work that you clock into, but also clock out of. Staying woke does not involve literally being awake at all hours of the day, but being instead attentive, present to the struggle. You may have heard that our work, our moment, the resistance to tyranny, as we may call it, the age of Trump, though I hope we call it something else in the future, is not a sprint. But for those of you filling in your minds, no, it's a marathon. Let me tell you that the arc of the universe, that which bends towards justice, is way, way longer than 26.2 miles. Liberation is not a sprint, nor is it a marathon. It is shift work, and it requires all of us. But when we say all of us, we don't mean every last bit of you offered up as a whole burnt offering. No, our salvation, and indeed our original heresy, is that our liberation does not depend on any one of us alone. If it depends on all of us, it depends on all of us, and there is room for all of us in it. And so I close with one of the strategies for finding rest and avoiding burnout that the Nagoski sisters write in their book, Burnout. Of all the ways we need rest, and of all the ways we might find it, indeed sleep is important, but almost as important is exercise, moving our bodies in big ways that require our arms and limbs to change sides. And so, in that spirit, I invite you to rise in body or in spirit and turn toward the center. And you can sing this song, but I invite you to dance with me.
How it opens up your heart. 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 Dance around the room with me. Start dancing and you'll see how it opens up your heart. How it opens up your heart. Reaching for the stars with you and for the sun and moon. How it opens up your heart. How it opens up your heart. If you're feeling sad and blue, I can wrap my arms around you. How it opens up your heart. How it opens up your heart. I could be your willow tree. You can come and swing on me. How it opens up your heart. How it opens up your heart. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be mad. It's okay to feel sorry. It's okay to feel sad. Dance around the room with me. Start dancing and you'll see how it opens up your heart. How it opens up your heart. How it opens up your heart. How it opens up your heart.
Whew, I'm so sorry, I got stuck behind dancing people. That was great. You all are such a delight. So, in a moment, you might expect, if you've been coming here a while, that I'm going to ask you to stack the chairs. Please don't. It's a day of rest. We'll be back at it next week. In fact, next week, we're joining people of all generations together for our spring equinox service, and it's our baby and child dedication. So as I look around the room, there are lots of babies and children, and if you somehow missed the boat on, oh my gosh, we want to participate, I've got a meeting in 119, like in 5 minutes. Come join us. But also, and I didn't tell you this before, even though I've known it for about 40 minutes, but I wanted you to pay attention to me. So I didn't tell you, which is Ada Van Tyne and Reverend AJ and their baby Hazel are in the back of the room over there. Oh, she's napping. Oh. Wow, my sermon worked, y'all! All right, well, let's close this up. Shall we extinguish our chalice? All right. We extinguish this flame, but not the lighted truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry again until we are together again. Go out into the world, weary and worn and deeply loved. May you know that this world, this movement, this church, and all that you are a part of needs you. All of you, which means you are never alone. Amen.